How old do you feel? I mean, not the number on your driver's license, not your actual birth year, but that profound inner sense of age, the one that really resonates with you. It might actually surprise you just how deeply that internal feeling influences some of the biggest economic decisions in your life. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a truly fascinating intersection of, well, psychology and economics, the world of subjective age identity. We're going to uncover how simply feeling younger or older than your chronological age isn't just some quirky personal detail. Nope. It's a powerful, often hidden force, a force that drives major life choices, everything from when you decide to work, to how much you save, and even how you choose to invest your hard-earned money. It's a puzzle, really, that challenges a lot of our conventional thinking about aging and finance.
Absolutely. And our guide for this deep dive into this compelling puzzle is a groundbreaking study from the Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization, spearheaded by researchers Zihan Ye and Thomas Post. They've meticulously analyzed data from, tens of thousands of individuals to uncover statistically and economically significant links between how old you feel and your tangible financial behaviors. So our mission today is to unpack these findings to show you precisely why this research fundamentally challenges traditional age-based financial planning, and crucially, what these insights mean for your financial future. We'll be connecting dots you might never consider before.
Okay, so let's start by laying the groundwork. Historically, society, and certainly the world of economics, has anchored itself pretty firmly to chronological age. Think about it. Mandatory retirement ages, they're set by a number, right? Eligibility for Social Security kicks in at a specific birthday. And those popular target date mutual funds. They automatically adjust your investments based purely on your birth year. It's objective, it's universally measurable. On the surface, it seems incredibly logical, straightforward for planning an entire lifetime. You know, when you can vote, senior discounts, pension benefits.
Right, health insurance premiums shifting.
Exactly. Chronological age has been the undisputed dictator of these financial and life benchmarks. It provides a simple, seemingly fair, and I guess predictable system based solely on the passage of time since you were born.
But does it really capture the full picture? I mean, the full picture of an individual's age or their standing in life.
Yeah, does turning 65 automatically mean everyone suddenly feels the same way about work or goals or risk?
Exactly. Or, as this research suggests, does it potentially miss a crucial internal dimension, a sort of deep-seated personal truth that might be far more influential on how we actually behave than we've previously acknowledged?
It does feel like we've been using maybe a blunt instrument for something that's incredibly nuanced.
Precisely. And what's truly fascinating here is how psychological research has increasingly shifted its focus. It's emphasizing subjective age identity, that internal sense of how old an individual feels, as an absolutely crucial factor. It's so much more than just the number of years you've lived. It's a deeply personal, often unconscious interpretation of aging that really transcends mere chronological years. It encompasses how a person genuinely feels, thinks, and behaves. It reflects their perceived developmental standing, their place in life, their vitality, maybe their wisdom, rather than just the literal time they've spent on Earth.
And this isn't just some abstract academic idea, right?
Oh, not at all. This internal sense of age influences tangible, real-world outcomes across a surprisingly wide spectrum of life. Numerous studies, for instance, have found subjective age identity to be a powerful predictor of health outcomes.
Health, like physical health.
Yes, physical and mental. Consider this. Strikingly, feeling older can even predict a higher mortality hazard.
Wow.
Yeah, even after meticulously accounting for objective health status, lifestyle, and a whole host of other factors. What that means in practical terms. Well, it means that two individuals with the exact same physical health, same diet, same exercise routine, but one feeling significantly older than the other, they could statistically face different life expectancies.
That's incredible.
It is. Furthermore, feeling older is consistently linked to worse cognitive performance. It can even be a marker for subsequent cognitive impairment in conditions like dementia. And beyond health, it impacts areas like organizational performance. Feeling younger can enhance occupational attitudes, boost productivity, increase workplace attachment, and, of course, it fundamentally influences consumer behaviors.
Yeah.
Just think about how marketing often targets a perceived age or lifestyle, rather than just a chronological one. It's about the whole experience of aging from the inside out, a powerful self-narrative shaping how we interact with the world.
So if it's not simply a number, if it's this incredibly influential, predictive inner feeling impacting health, work, everything, Where does it actually come from? How does this subjective age identity develop? And why do some people feel perpetually young while others might feel older than their years even if they were born the same year? Is it just personality?
That's a key question, and the research points to a dynamic lifespan framework for how this subjective age identity forms. It's not static, and it's quite interesting how this feeling evolves over our lives. Early on, surprisingly, individuals might actually feel older than their chronological age.
Really?
Older? Yeah, think of teenagers eager to be seen as adults, or young adults maybe striving for more responsibility, more maturity. This desire often leads to a subjective age that outpaces their chronological one. However, a significant and pervasive shift occurs typically in middle adulthood, somewhere around the age of 45 or so. After this point, the vast majority of people consistently tend to feel younger than their chronological age. This pattern is incredibly prevalent, remarkably consistent across diverse populations.
Okay, so after 45, most of us start feeling younger. How does that happen?
Well, this internal feeling emerges from a complex, ongoing process of what researchers call anchoring, adjusting, and adapting. We anchor ourselves to both internal developmental models, our own implicit theories about what a certain age should feel like, what milestones we expect to hit, or what stage we see ourselves in. At the same time, we're constantly adjusting to and adapting based on external age symbolic markers.
Like, what are those markers?
Those are the societal cues and stereotypes linked to different ages. Maybe media portraying retirement as a symbol of being old, or youth culture equating vitality with certain activities. Personal views, like someone's deep-seated fear of aging, also play a significant role.
Oh.
And crucially, social comparisons with our same-age peers. They contribute profoundly to this variation.
Ah, comparing yourself to friends.
Exactly. If you see your friends or colleagues who are chronologically your age starting to slow down, maybe talk about ailments, adopt more sedentary lifestyles, and you just don't feel that way, that can powerfully reinforce your feeling of being younger, more capable. And the data backs this up strongly. The U.S. Health and Retirement Study, the HRS data that this research uses, it confirms this dynamic. They found that over 85% of respondents report a subjective age that is different from their chronological age.
85%.
Mhm. And here's the kicker. Approximately 75% of them actually report feeling younger. The consistency is remarkable. The mean and median subjective age gap in the HRS data is around 10 years.
10 years younger on average. Wow.
Right, so the average person feels about a full decade younger than they are. This isn't some fringe phenomenon. It's a substantial, widespread, deeply ingrained aspect of how we perceive ourselves as we age. And this next point is absolutely critical. Subjective age identity is largely a stable, time-invariant individual characteristic.
Stable, so it doesn't bounce around much.
Generally, no. While major life events, like a significant health shock, can cause some temporary variation, a serious illness might momentarily make someone feel older, for instance, for the most part. Once this internal sense of age is formed in adulthood, it stays remarkably consistent over time. It doesn't fluctuate wildly day to day or even year to year. This inherent stability makes it an incredibly powerful and reliable predictor for long-term behaviors. It offers this consistent internal lens through which individuals make decisions over many years. It shapes their trajectory far more profoundly than just a fleeting sentiment. It's a deep-seated part of their identity.
That's a truly profound insight, that this deeply personal feeling about our age isn't just some, ephemeral thought, but a stable characteristic that guides us. And this is where it transitions from fascinating psychology to, well, actionable economics. The researchers propose that this subjective age identity impacts our economic behaviors through two distinct and sometimes competing channels. They call them the preference channel and the ability channel. Let's unpack these pathways, because understanding their interplay is absolutely crucial to grasping the subtle yet profound influence of how old you feel on your financial life.
Precisely. Let's start with the preference channel. This theory suggests that individuals unconsciously categorize various economic behaviors as either young or old. Once they've made these internal categorizations, they then selectively engage in or actively avoid these behaviors based on their subjective age identity, essentially. They act out their perceived age.
So behaving in a way that matches how young or old you feel?
Exactly. Think of it as a powerful coping mechanism, particularly as people chronologically age. They might start facing old age stereotypes, maybe experience subtle age discrimination, or develop an underlying fear of loss associated with getting older, loss of vitality, independence, status. Feeling younger then becomes a powerful, often subconscious way to deny or push back against the aging process. It's a desire to preserve a youthful identity. So they embrace behaviors they associate with vitality and youth, while actively or passively eschewing those linked to the elderly. It's about aligning with a desired sense of self, a self that defies chronological expectations.
Okay, so how do they figure out what's seen as young or old behavior?
Good question. To concretely validate these categorizations, the researchers conducted a separate survey, asking people directly about their perceptions. For instance, they found an overwhelming consensus. People strongly associate working for pay with feeling younger. Right. While being retired is consistently, almost universally, linked to feeling older. The mean difference in perception between these two activities was strikingly large, highlighting a clear societal and personal distinction. This strong association implies that a younger subjective age identity would naturally lead to higher work engagement, because working is seen as young behavior, a sign of ongoing vitality. Similarly, the survey revealed that saving for retirement and dealing with personal finance, the nitty-gritty of managing money for the long term, were consistently categorized as behaviors that make people feel older.
Older, saving makes you feel older.
Compared to, say, going shopping or doing recreational pursuits, which are acts of immediate consumption. Yes, this perception is absolutely critical. If managing money for the long term or diligently saving is seen as an old person's activity, then an individual who identifies as younger might, quite counterintuitively, reduce their savings.
Huh, so they might spend more now to feel young.
Exactly. They might unconsciously prefer spending on more immediate, youth-associated consumption, prioritizing experiences over financial prudence to maintain that youthful self-image. In the same vein, investing in the stock market with its connotations of long-term planning and maybe financial sophistication was also seen as a behavior that makes one feel older than simply consuming. This perception could potentially deter younger-feeling individuals from taking on more sophisticated financial risks, even if logically maybe they should. So in summary, the preference channel predicts higher work engagement, definitely, but potentially lower savings and perhaps less risky investments.
Okay, that's the preference channel. What about the other one, the ability channel?
All right, let's pivot to the ability channel. This channel shifts the focus entirely to self-perceived capabilities. The core idea here is that feeling younger often correlates directly with a more positive, often optimistic evaluation of one's own abilities. This leads to higher self-efficacy, that powerful inner conviction that you have the capacity to succeed in specific situations, whether it's mastering a new skill at work, navigating complex investments, or simply maintaining physical stamina.
So feeling young makes you feel more capable.
Generally, yes. This positive illusion, this belief in enduring capabilities, even as chronological age advances, can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It can genuinely increase mental power, reduce emotional exhaustion or stress when expending effort. It can overall positively affect one's physical and psychological health. If you believe you're more capable, more resilient, have more time on your side, you're far more likely to put in the sustained effort required to succeed. This enhanced self-perception and confidence extend to various domains, including one's capacity to perform at work, manage complex financial matters, and even take calculated risks with a greater sense of control. So the ability channel predicts higher work engagement due to perceived work abilities and sustained motivation, and higher savings due to better financial management skills and greater control over consumption, and potentially more risky yet calculated investments due to higher financial confidence and a longer perceived time horizon.
So this is where the plot really thickens. You put these two channels together, preference and ability, and you see this fascinating dynamic. For work engagement, like you said, both channels align perfectly. Feeling younger pushes you towards working longer. Preference says working is young. Ability says you feel capable. It's a win-win for staying in the workforce.
Right?
But here's the truly compelling, complex twist. For saving and portfolio choice, they clash head-on. The preference channel subtly tells you, save less, avoid complex investing. Those are old behaviors that don't fit your youthful vibe. Yet the ability channel simultaneously says, no, save more, invest more shrewdly, you feel confident, capable, in control. So the actual outcome for an individual's financial behavior then depends on which channel, which set of motivations ultimately dominates for that person or for that specific behavior.
Exactly.
This fascinating tension creates complex, often non-linear effects that lead to some truly surprising patterns in financial decision-making, which I guess we're about to dive into. It's not as simple as feeling young equals good financial choices.
Definitely not. And to meticulously explore these intriguing predictions, the researchers utilized that remarkably rich and robust data set, the U.S. Health and Retirement Study, the HRS. This is a longitudinal panel study, surveying a representative sample of older Americans every 2 years. It provides an unparalleled wealth of information on health, economic status, well-being over extended periods. Specifically, they focused on data collected from 2008 to 2014. That was a critical period because, starting in 2008, the HRS introduced that direct question we mentioned. Many people feel older or younger than they actually are. What age do you feel?
Ah, the key question.
The key question. It's a straightforward, validated, and powerful method for getting a direct measure of an individual's subjective age. It provides a clear window into this internal identity. The robust sample focused primarily on household heads, predominantly older Americans, mean chronological age around 68.5 years.
Yeah.
But the real methodological strength here lies in their meticulous control for a vast array of potentially confounding factors. They didn't just look at subjective age in isolation.
Right, you need to rule out other explanations.
Precisely. They rigorously accounted for basic demographics like gender, race, marital status. They controlled for crucial socioeconomic status indicators: income, education, wealth. Importantly, they integrated comprehensive measures of both objective health status, like chronic conditions, and self-reported health. They even included psychological traits like subjective survival expectations, optimism levels, life satisfaction. By accounting for all these variables, the researchers could isolate as much as possible the specific and independent impact of the subjective age on financial behaviors. They also specifically filtered the data to ensure they were analyzing individuals who had truly passed into middle and later adulthood, specifically those over from the 5, because, as we discussed, the internal models of subjective age tend to be more stable then.
Okay, that makes sense. Remove the wanting to be older effect from younger folks.
Exactly. This careful methodology ensures that the connections they found are not just correlations, but robust indicators of influence.
With such a robust data set, let's start with expectations about work. It intuitively makes sense, doesn't it? If you feel younger, you likely feel more energetic, more capable, less ready for traditional retirement. So do people who feel younger expect to work longer? And can we quantify that impact?
Absolutely. The findings provide a resounding affirmation of that intuition. The study reveals a strong, statistically significant positive link between feeling younger and expecting to remain active in the labor force. This isn't just a vague feeling, it translates into concrete plans. To put some compelling numbers on this, the researchers quantified the economic significance. For example, an increase in the subjective age gap by 1 standard deviation, which, for a 60-year-old, basically means feeling about 11 years younger.
Okay.
That increases the likelihood of expecting to rejoin the labor force by 1.6%.
1.6%. Doesn't sound huge.
Well, in isolation, maybe not, but it's actually a substantial 15.2% increase relative to the average person's likelihood of expecting to rejoin.
Ah, okay, relative to the baseline, that's significant.
It is. Think about the ripple effect. Individual finances, the wider economy, labor shortages, Social Security sustainability. It's a considerable shift in expectations driven purely by how you feel about your age. Moreover, this feeling also translates directly into planning to retire later. Feeling 1 standard deviation younger adds about 0.67 years, roughly 8 months, to a person's planned working life. So yes, that internal feeling of youth clearly, powerfully influences your outlook on how long you'll stay in the economic game.
That's compelling evidence on expectations, but, this is where the rubber truly meets the road. Do these expectations about working longer, driven by feeling young, actually translate into real-world behavior later on? Are people actually staying in the workforce longer or rejoining it because they feel younger?
That's the ultimate test, isn't it? The test of predictive power. And the answer is a definitive yes, they absolutely do. The study meticulously tracked individuals over multiple waves of the HRS data, confirming that a younger subjective age identity doesn't just influence what people think they'll do, but what they actually do.
Okay, moving from intention to action. That's crucial.
Crucial distinction. So specifically, feeling 1 standard deviation younger increases the actual probability of rejoining the labor force by 1.1% in the subsequent survey wave. To contextualize this, that 1.1% represents about 20.8%, nearly 21% of the average chance of reemployment for individuals in the study.
Wow. A fifth more likely to jump back into work.
Conversely, feeling younger decreases the actual probability of retiring in a subsequent wave by 1.4%, which represents about 7.5% of the average retirement rate. These are economically significant effects demonstrating the real-world impact of subjective age on labor market participation. It directly influences the supply of experienced workers and the timing of retirement. And the researchers didn't just find a correlation, they did what economists call a mediation analysis. This helped them pinpoint how these effects unfold, kind of disentangling the influence of the preference and ability channels.
Ah, so why it happens.
Exactly. And what they discovered was striking. A full 40% of the reason people actually rejoin the labor force can be directly attributed to their expectations about working for pay.
40%. So the preference channel is huge there.
Huge. It highlights the powerful role of that desire to stay active, involved, to maintain that youthful identity through work. It's not just that they can work, but that they want to. Perceived workability, reflecting the ability channel, also plays a significant role, accounting for a smaller, though still noteworthy, 14.6% of the retirement decision. This suggests that while confidence in one's capabilities is important, that desire to stay active and involve that preference for young behaviors like working is a powerful, perhaps even stronger motivator for postponing retirement, rather than solely a belief in physical work capabilities. Plus, they found these effects were even stronger for individuals under 70 and those in less physically demanding jobs.
Right, where the choice is maybe more feasible.
Exactly. Less constrained by physical limits, allowing that internal subjective age to really drive the decision.
Okay, so we've established a clear, powerful link. Feeling younger leads to wanting to work longer and actually doing it. That feels, well, intuitively consistent. But now, let's turn to your money, specifically your savings. If feeling younger makes you want to work longer, you might instinctively think more work, more income, more opportunities to save leads to higher savings. Seems like a logical cascade, right?
It's logical.
But here's where it gets truly fascinating and, quite frankly, counterintuitive. It showcases that complex, sometimes conflicting interplay between those preference and ability channels we mentioned. The study uncovered a genuinely surprising finding. The relationship between your subjective age gap and your savings, both total net wealth and financial wealth, is surprisingly hump-shaped.
And hump-shaped, like a hill.
Exactly like a hill. It's not a straight line up or down. Your savings tend to increase as you feel younger, climbing steadily up to a certain point. Like an optimal feeling young but still financially responsible sweet spot. But then here's the kicker. If you feel much, much younger, if that subjective age gap becomes exceptionally large, your savings actually start to decrease.
Decrease. So feeling too young is bad for savings.
Apparently so. This isn't just a quirky statistical finding, it's profound, often counterintuitive. This hump shape is the smoking gun, directly indicating the dynamic, conflicting interplay of the preference and ability channels duking it out over your financial prudence.
That hump shape is, indeed, a direct and compelling illustration of ability and preference in a tug-of-war over your financial decisions. Let's break down the evidence for each, revealing how this fascinating pattern emerges. First, let's look at the evidence supporting the ability channel. Individuals who feel younger generally exhibit a whole suite of characteristics that should logically lead to more saving, better financial management. The study found they tend to have higher financial risk tolerance.
Okay, willing to take more risk for potentially higher returns.
Right. Suggesting a greater comfort with investments that offer higher returns long-term, maybe a longer perceived time horizon for recovery. They also reported significantly longer financial planning horizons.
Thinking further ahead, crucial for saving.
Absolutely. A foundational driver of increased saving. And crucially, they also report a greater sense of self-efficacy over their financial situation. They feel more in control of their money, their financial destiny, their capacity to manage complex matters. These positive traits, all flowing from the ability channel, would naturally encourage more saving, more sophisticated investment behaviors.
Okay, so ability pushes toward saving more, but the hump shape means something else is going on.
Exactly. The hump shape reveals the powerful, often insidious influence of the preference channel, especially in the extremes of feeling extremely young. Within that substantial group of individuals who already feel younger than their chronological age, the study found that feeling even younger, meaning a larger percentage gap, actually leads to less savings.
Less savings when you feel even younger.
Yes, this is the preference channel at work in full force. As we discussed, saving and meticulous financial management are often unconsciously perceived as old behaviors, activities associated with prudence, planning for the end of life, a more sedate existence. To reinforce their younger identity, perhaps deny the subtle creep of aging, some individuals may unconsciously avoid these behaviors. They opt instead for immediate consumption, prioritizing experiences, engaging in other pursuits they associate more closely with youth and vitality. To put numbers on this truly surprising dynamic, Within the group that already feels younger, an increase in feeling even younger by one standard deviation reduced short-term financial wealth accumulation by a notable 8.8%.
Nearly 9% less.
And the impact on long-term accumulation was even more significant, decreasing it by a substantial 24.3%.
Wow, almost a quarter reduction in long-term wealth accumulation.
It really highlights how the preference channel can, for a segment of the population, completely reverse the positive impact that the ability channel had on savings. It leads to this complex, profoundly counterintuitive outcome where feeling too young can actually undermine your financial security. It's a fascinating example of how our internal sense of self, that powerful unconscious narrative about our age, can override what might seem like purely logical, rational financial decisions. It just underscores how deeply ingrained our identity is in our choices.
That's a truly profound finding about savings. Okay, so if diligent saving and financial management are sometimes seen as old behaviors, what about investing your money? Especially in riskier assets like stocks. Does that also fall into the old category? Or does the confidence and optimism from feeling young make you more adventurous, more willing to take calculated risks with your portfolio? Seems like another place those channels could clash.
You've hit on precisely the right question. And the pattern is quite similar for portfolio choice, specifically regarding the allocation to riskier investments like stocks. The risky share, the proportion of financial assets someone invests in equities versus safer assets like bonds or cash, also follows that same hump-shaped profile we saw for savings. It mirrors the complex interplay of the channels.
Oh, they're hump-shaped.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do the channels play out here?
Well, let's consider them again in this context. The ability channel would strongly suggest that feeling younger, coupled with greater financial confidence, a longer perceived investment horizon, higher self-efficacy, it might logically lead to taking on more calculated investment risks.
Makes sense. More time, more confidence, more risk.
Right. If you believe you have more years to recover from market fluctuations and you feel more capable of making shrewd decisions, then a higher allocation to growth-oriented, riskier assets like stocks would seem entirely rational. However, the preference channel implies a different direction. If sophisticated financial management, complex long-term investment strategies, or even just engaging with the stock market is seen as an old age trigger.
Something older people do.
Exactly. Something older people primarily do to manage retirement funds. Then, individuals aiming to emphatically feel young might actually shy away from it. They might unconsciously opt for safer, less involved assets or maybe less active portfolio management, perceiving it as a way to avoid behaviors associated with what they consider old.
And what did the data show?
The data strongly supports this tension. For those who already feel younger than their chronological age, feeling even more younger, a larger discrepancy, one standard deviation more actually lowers their risky share in investments by a noticeable 0.8%.
Lowers it. So feeling extremely young makes you more conservative with investments.
In this group, yes. While 0.8% might sound small, it represents about 4% of the average conditional mean for risky share in that group. It indicates a subtle but significant shift towards conservatism. Conversely, for the smaller group of individuals who unusually feel older than their chronological age, the act of feeling younger, so reducing their subjective age gap, feeling closer to their actual age or even younger, actually increases their risky share by a more substantial 1.4%. Increases it. Which is about 10% of the average conditional mean for that group. This again powerfully underscores the often subconscious influence of the preference channel. It demonstrates that for a significant portion of the population, the desire to align with a youthful identity can lead to less adventurous investment strategies, despite potentially higher self-perceived financial abilities. It's a subtle but profoundly significant factor in how people manage their long-term wealth, impacting everything from growth potential to financial security.
These findings are truly paradigm shifting. I mean, really. So what does this all mean for us? For individuals trying to navigate their financial lives, and for the broader institutions like financial advisors or policymakers that guide them. The implications here are pretty profound for how we think about aging, personal finance, even public policy. It fundamentally challenges a lot of the assumptions built into our societal structures that rely solely on that chronological number.
Indeed it does. This study strongly suggests that traditional approaches, which solely rely on chronological age to guide financial planning and policy, are missing a crucial piece of the puzzle, perhaps the most crucial piece. To truly understand, predict, and ultimately support individuals' economic decisions effectively, we really should incorporate subjective age alongside chronological age.
Not just adding another metric, but seeing a fuller picture.
Exactly. Acknowledging a more complete, psychologically nuanced picture of an individual's life stage, their vitality, energy, their powerful internal motivations. It recognizes that 60 is not just 60, it's a whole spectrum of internal realities. For financial advisors, the application is actually quite straightforward, I think, and immediately actionable. Asking clients a simple yet profound question like, "What age do you feel?" could unlock a wealth of information. It allows for much more personalized, relevant, and ultimately effective advice.
Like tailoring the plan to the felt age, not just the birth certificate.
Precisely. Imagine advising two 60-year-old clients. One who genuinely feels 45, full of energy, future plans. Another who truly feels 70, perhaps more fatigued, ready to slow down. Their risk tolerance, their willingness to save, their work intentions, their desired retirement lifestyle could be vastly different, even if their objective financial situation is similar. Consequently, rigid financial products like target date funds, which automatically adjust based purely on chronological age, could potentially be refined, dynamically adjusted based on a client's reported subjective age, not just their birth year.
Leading to a better fit, psychologically?
Yes, a much better, more psychologically aligned fit for their internal life stage and financial goals. Advisors could pivot conversations from retirement at 65 to retirement when you feel ready, and here's how we prepare for that. For businesses, particularly within financial services, the implications are equally clear, ripe for innovation. Just as the consumer goods industry already masterfully segments customers by subjective age to tailor products and marketing, think anti-aging products, or youth-oriented fashion marketed to older adults who feel young.
Right, they're experts at that.
They are. Financial services could adopt the same nuanced approach. Design and market financial products and services that resonate not just with someone's chronological demographic, but with their subjective age identity. Make them far more appealing, more relevant. This could lead to innovative retirement products for those who feel eternally youthful, or investment strategies tailored for those who feel mature and prudent at a relatively young chronological age.
Okay, advisors and businesses. What about public policy? That seems trickier.
It is more challenging, yet potentially more impactful. While the benefits of incorporating subjective age into policy design are clear, fostering greater individual autonomy, well-being, there's an inherent challenge. The risk of individuals strategically reporting their subjective age for personal benefits.
Yeah, people might game the system, say they feel younger to delay retirement for more benefits or older to get benefits sooner.
Exactly, that's a real concern. However, these robust results still strongly advocate for policies that provide flexibility. Instead of rigid, age-based mandates dictating when individuals must retire or must begin receiving retirement plan payouts, policies could empower individuals to decide these crucial life stages themselves. This would allow these pivotal decisions to align with their deep-seated internal sense of age and vitality, rather than being confined by a rigid external chronological number.
More individual choice based on internal feeling.
Right. This flexibility would respect the profound individual differences that subjective age identity highlights so vividly. It could also potentially allow for a more efficient allocation of labor, keeping vital experience in the workforce longer when individuals are willing and able.
That's a truly transformative vision, and it begs perhaps the most intriguing question of all. If this subjective age is such a powerful, stable driver of our financial behavior, can we actually change how people feel about their age? Could we, in theory, nudge this internal compass in a beneficial direction, encourage healthier or more prudent economic outcomes? That really takes the findings to a whole new level.
Remarkably, prior psychological research indicates that an individual's subjective age identity can, indeed, be experimentally manipulated.
Manipulated, you can make someone feel younger or older.
To some extent, yes. This isn't science fiction. Studies have shown that targeted interventions can lead to measurable improvements, not just in subjective age, but also in objective outcomes like cognitive functions and memory, for instance, and even physical functioning among older adults. These interventions might involve things like challenging prevailing age stereotypes, promoting positive self-perceptions of aging by encouraging active lifestyles, or engaging individuals in activities traditionally associated with younger age groups, thereby reinforcing a sense of vitality and capability.
So if we know certain behaviors are good, like working longer if able, or saving more, could we use interventions to shift subjective age to encourage those?
That's the fascinating possibility it opens up.
Yeah.
It raises this important question. If we identify certain economic behaviors as highly beneficial, encouraging longer work lives to boost productivity and ease strain on Social Security, or inspiring more diligent saving for financial security, could interventions designed to subtly shift subjective age identity be used as a novel tool? Could we encourage those desired behavioral outcomes? It moves beyond standard financial literacy campaigns to a deeper, more identity-based approach to behavioral change. The potential to foster a widespread sense of sustained vitality, leading to tangible economic benefits for both individuals and society, is truly profound. It offers a fresh perspective on how we might proactively shape our collective financial future.
This deep dive has truly shown us that the age you feel is far more than just a fleeting thought or a simple preference. It's a deep-seated identity, a fundamental part of your self-concept. And it powerfully, sometimes quite counterintuitively, shapes your decisions about when you work, how much you save, and how you invest. We've seen how the intricate interplay between your self-perceived abilities, that ability channel, and your unconscious preferences for behaviors you deem young or old. The preference channel creates these complex, often surprising patterns in your financial life. It leads to outcomes that can defy simple logic, especially when it comes to how much you accumulate or how much risk you take with your investments. It's a dynamic internal force we often underestimate.
It really is. And this raises an important question for you, our listener, to consider. How might your subjective age be subtly influencing your own financial choices, perhaps without you even realizing it? Are you working longer, genuinely feeling you have more to contribute and more energy? Or could it be driven in part by a subconscious desire to maintain a youthful identity by staying in the workforce? Are you perhaps saving less than you could simply because careful financial management feels like an older activity you're subconsciously avoiding? Or maybe taking less calculated investment risks because you're trying to defy the perception of aging by being less quote-unquote responsible? Perhaps understanding this deeply personal inner compass, this subjective age, is the first most crucial step towards making more informed, more aligned, and ultimately more fulfilling economic decisions for your future. It might be time to ask yourself, what age do I really feel? And then reflect honestly on what that feeling might truly be doing for, and maybe even to, your financial well-being.